Hey everyone, welcome. I wanted to just reach out to you real quick. I just got finished watching a video from Dash, and if you don't know her story, you should look her up on YouTube. She did some amazing content creation, and she's talking about something that worries me a little bit, and here's why. It's my own personal issue. I call it raw dogging it, and it's what I'm doing right now, where, I haven't really brushed my hair. I don't wear makeup, but maybe showing too many wrinkles. Basically worried about what people think and what people will say when I post a video. And it is specifically because of the way I spent my childhood, which was hyper critical. I and then the way I spent the last 10 years, which was being daily criticized for every single choice I made. Now, before the past 10 years, I was at what I would consider the top of my game. I was running. I had just spent a year, 2015. I was coming off a broken leg and ran three 100-mile races. I was in a six-figure corporate lower level C-suite job. I had money to travel. I went to Hawaii. I went to Key West. I lived in Florida, so Key West wasn't a big problem. And I was flying back and forth to Arkansas probably every 6 weeks. So I was at the height of my game. I mean, if you could talk about a single guy, who was doing pretty well, for having been divorced and not really getting to raise his kids the way he wanted to. And I had an idea. Well, basically, I got laid off and let go from a business, from my job. My corporate job downsized. And I'll tell that story in another video. But I suddenly found myself loose from corporate America and thinking, what could I do? Well, I always wanted to write. I had always been a writer, but I wanted to be a published author. And I had discovered Amazon's KDP program, so I started doing that. I was applying for more corporate jobs, trying to stay in my industry, but my industry was changing. Deservedly so. It needed to change. But there were just a bunch of circumstances that all just happened around the same time. And it started making me, I was in a brand new relationship. And because I wasn't getting the job interviews, because I wasn't getting because I wasn't an instant published bestseller, right? Because I had a ton of talent. I mean, I was one of only 10,000 people in the world to jump out of an airplane and run a 100-mile race. I was one of less than 10,000 people in 2015 who ran multiple 100-mile races in a year and completed them. So, I thought my poo did not stink. But poo does stink. And I started having these little doubts about myself. And you've had them all, but the voices from when you're younger, if they start to come back, you start to listen to those ghosts. Your energy, your self starts to look for reasons. Your brain says, you know what, you're right. You got fired, laid off from this job. You got let go from this job. You went to an interview and they didn't hire you. Then you went to another interview, they didn't hire you. And you start to sort of stack these systems against yourself where your brain is going, you know what, maybe they're right. And then after my last 100-mile race that year, I took a week or two to recover, and I made a plan to go kayak the Mississippi River, and I went for a while. I did do that. Went to the headwaters of the Mississippi River at Lake Itasca, and 2 weeks in, got flipped and lost some equipment and nearly lost my life, and got a phone call from a text when I got back into cell service area from my kid's mom saying that I was being stupid, that I was risking my life and going to leave my kids fatherless and blah, 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 blah. And my problem was I started to listen to other people. And you should. I've heard that before. Wise men take advice. What is the expression? A fool learns from his own mistake. A wise man learns from others. And I have made enough mistakes in my life to know that, I've been a pretty good fool. But I've also learned from others' mistakes. Except I started listening to other people telling me, you're not quite as good as you once were, and you're not good enough anymore. And this compounded over the years. I moved back to Arkansas, and Arkansas has, I did it for a reason, but Arkansas is was not a good state and is not a good state for my chosen career path, which was education. And I'm not talking about being a school teacher. I'm talking about college education, private universities that were online. Arkansas was the last state to come online. Arkansas was one of the last states to get internet everywhere. And immediately when I got back into Arkansas in 2016, I got a job in online education working for ITT. And 6 weeks later, I was taken to Indiana with the president of the campus because we were going to do a training. We flew up on a Monday, or maybe a Sunday. Anyway, we went into a meeting on Monday morning at 9 o'clock. I had a presentation at 9:30 where I was going to present about my campus and our plans for growth and retention. And I'll be danged if literally the head of the VP of our department got called out. The board of directors met while we were meeting. They were in New York having a meeting. They dissolved the company, and he came back in and said, "We think your tickets are going to work." Okay, so that job was gone. 6 weeks there. And then I started looking for another job that paid a living wage. And because maybe my connections or networks were all built down in Florida, and everyone that I knew in Arkansas, I'd been away from Arkansas for 15 years, 20 years. So I started looking and trying and applying, and I would get all these interviews and go all the way through. But the message I would get back was no. And so I started taking that in my mind that I wasn't good enough. And I would hear it from other people. When the words they would say were like, maybe it's your resume. If you were qualified, someone would hire you, because I know people who are getting hired right now. And, part of me is like, yeah, that's right. But the other part of me is like, well, there's nothing wrong with me. I've done all these things. I'm still training myself. I'm still learning. I'm still doing stuff. I'm doing all the things I think I'm supposed to do, and those things aren't working. So I had to figure that out, and I'm still trying to figure it out, because here we are now 10 years later, and I'm supposed to follow through on the things that I've learned. 4 years ago, 2019, I was told to start posting every single day on YouTube, on TikTok, on all the social media channels. And do you know what I did? Wrote books. Tried to find a job at Amazon so I could get good, steady money. I failed to do what I was told. And yet here I am 4 years later, 5 years later, hearing from someone who is doing the exact same thing I was told and what I'm telling you to do, which is post every single day. Raw dog it on YouTube. Raw dog it on TikTok. Just raw dog your ass off, and you will grow. Now, I've had some success in the past 10 years. I've had a lot of success in the past 10 years by redefining what I think success is. Would I like a six-figure income again? Yes. Would I want it through author sales and or book sales and audiobooks and YouTube? Yes. And in my next video, I'll tell you how that's going. I'll show you what's working. And I think that you will see that by posting more, unfiltered, just you, mistakes and all, and trust me, I've made a lot of mistakes. If you post more, then you will grow, and your business, the business of being you, will start to make the money you want to make. So I hope to see you back here soon. Today, get after it. Just get after it.